Most buyers think they understand what buying a home costs. You got the price, you got your down payment, you throw the two together in an equation with some interest rates, and bam, you have a mortgage payment. And while that's not totally wrong, it is not complete either. Because the real stress in buying a home doesn't usually come from the big numbers that you've already planned for and that you're expecting. It comes from the ones that just kind of appear and then begin to add up. So in this video, let's talk about those. Not in a scary way, just in a how it all works kind of way. And one of the first costs that usually gets the first-time buyers by surprise is the land transfer tax. Everybody plans for the down payment, but you got to remember, as always, the government wants their check too. It's not a monthly cost. It's not one that you really budget for. It just kind of shows up on closing day. Now, if you are a first-time buyer, there may be a rebate available for this, depending on where you're buying, but a lot of times it's capped. So it's something to be aware about rather than learning about it from your lawyer 2 days before closing. And speaking of lawyers, there's legal fees and disbursements, and that's something else a lot of people forget about. You're not just paying somebody to sign the documents. They're doing title searches, registering the property, moving money around, and making sure there's no legal issues tied to the house when you close. It's normal and it's necessary, but it's not usually top of mind when someone's buying. Then there's a home inspection. It's optional, but it does give good peace of mind as long as you make sure you use a good, reputable home inspector, because there's a lot of them out there that just glance over the place. But you can probably budget anywhere between $300 and $500 or $600 for this. And you know what? Even if they uncover a small problem that's going to save you a couple thousand in the end, it's worth it. Now this is, and now another one, and this one's kind of sneaky sometimes, and that's property tax adjustments. So the way this works, and it all depends on the scenario, but sometimes a seller will have paid for the entire year's property taxes in advance, meaning that you have to pay for whatever remaining part of the year that you're going to be using the home for back to the seller. So technically, even though you haven't lived there yet, you might owe a chunk of that property tax on closing day. It's not extra tax, it's just the timing. But if you didn't know it was coming, it can be pretty unexpected. Utilities are another cost you have to remember. The water, the gas, the hydro, the internet, none of them turn on by themselves. Most of them come with hookup fees, transfer fees, and sometimes even deposits. Each one is pretty small on their own, but altogether it's not nothing, especially right after you've written a lot of other checks. And now this next one, when it happens, it's a piss off, but it's appliances. Most listings will say that the fridge, the stove, the dishwasher, the washer, the dryer are all included, but those are all in as-is condition, and what's not included is the life expectancy. So even if all of them are working upon closing, it's safe to assume that one of them is going to break down sooner than you'd like. Not immediately, hopefully, but soon enough to matter. And now this next one, it's not an absolute cost that you have to incur, but it's furniture. And especially if you're moving from a condo to a house or a house with a different layout, suddenly the couch doesn't fit or the dining table just feels wrong. Most people don't plan on buying new furniture when they get into a new home, but they end up doing it anyway. And then there's the last one, and kind of my favorite one to talk about because it's more about prepping buyers, and that is the just-in-case buffer, like for one of those appliances. But what we have to remember is that homes are systems, and those systems are going to need regular maintenance and sometimes repair and attention or updates. And if you've never owned a home before, you might not even know what this all entails. You might not even know some of the systems that your home has. Now, the buyers who usually feel the most comfortable after they move into a home are the ones who have prepared for this. Not because they expected problems, but because they understood that home ownership isn't perfectly predictable. Now, the important thing here is not a list of costs to memorize. You can always look back on this video and do proper planning with your financial advisor. But you got to understand that buying a home isn't just a purchase, it's a transition. And with a transition, sometimes comes friction. And when you expect that, it's manageable, but when you don't, it's overwhelming. So the takeaway here isn't that buying a home is expensive. You already knew that. The takeaway is that the stress really comes from the costs that you weren't prepared for. When you understand them ahead of time, they stop being scary and they just become part of the plan. Now, if you are planning on buying, I've put together a buyer's guide that I've got linked in the description. You can go there and download it for free. And if you're in the Sarnia Lambton area and want to talk about your scenario one-on-one, there's another link down there so you can book a call with me. Just a conversation, no pressure, just clarity. Either way, my goal for you is the same: more clarity and fewer surprises. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.